Hi, men. How are we?
Blooming well, Frank.
Valentine's Day, mate. I'm feeling horny.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dear.
Wow.
It's a slightly earlier record today, so...
So you
I'm
can
half
fit
asleep.
in more horn for the
Yeah,
rest of the
exactly.
day,
It's also
presumably.
Single Awareness Day today.
Oh,
So
is it?
for people who aren't in a
Oh, is that
relationship,
right?
so they don't feel left out.
That is very
Ah.
much just a byproduct of it being Valentine's
Yeah.
Day, though,
Yeah.
isn't it? I don't. Is
Very
that
much
an
a
official
true.
thing?
Very
Yeah.
much a 21st century thing as well.
It's very much singles being aware that they're single,
Yeah.
more than anything else.
More aware than they would otherwise.
Well, they're all welcome round
Welcome.
Pete's house.
Yes,
They're all welcome in the Football Ramble parish.
definite. It's a
Yeah.
broad
Yeah.
parish and a loving one.
And the bigamists.
Yeah,
Like,
And
whatever.
whatever you're doing
It's your
with yourself.
business.
yeah.
Jimmy.
Big
Talking-
Jimmy style.
Talking on behalf of your people. All right. Well, before we talk about the FA Cup this weekend, Gordon Banks sadly died, of course, and Eric Harrison as well, two giants of the game.
Yeah, for
But-
very different reasons.
But
yeah.
for very different reasons, and the tributes have been really nice, and in particular for Gordon Banks as well, a player whose career obviously we don't remember, but we've very much enjoyed looking back on. Pele gave a really lovely tribute, talking about that save, of course, and so on. There was a
Yeah.
wonderful photo doing the rounds as well, where Gordon Banks is diving
Catching a
and
dog.
catching a dog that ran on the pitch.
The tribute from Pele to Gordon was a really nice one, and it's quite long, so I'll just read the final three sentences where he says, "I'm glad he saved my header because that act was the start of a friendship between us that I will always treasure. Whenever we met, it was always like we had never been apart. I have great sadness in my heart today, and I say condolences to the family he was so proud of. Rest in peace, my friend. Yes, you were a goalkeeper with magic, but you were also so much more. You were a fine human being."
If you
Very nice
ever,
tribute.
if you ever need to know how to do a beautiful tribute, that is top class.
Yeah, it's
He's
great.
done
Yeah.
so
That's
well.
great.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And obviously his place in football folklore is forever assured because of the World Cup win. But obviously an illustrious club career with Stoke and Leicester City, amongst some other places as well. And yeah, the football world is much poorer without him, and we send our condolences to his family and friends. And there was a lovely tribute to him actually at White Hart Lane last night. It was-
Wembley.
Sorry, Wembley. God, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Not to worry.
I'm getting before myself and ahead of myself. Where it was obviously a minute's silence, but it sort of broke into spontaneous applause for him, and and rightly so because he was a great guy and a great goalkeeper.
And a performance from Spurs fitting of the great
Absolutely.
man. A clean sheet, of course. He
You
would
got
have been
Lloris,
very
his own
pleased with
personal tribute with an amazing save at the far post. But
that. That's right. What a performance from Spurs.
it was great. Before we get into Spurs, can I just spare a thought for Eric Harrison?
Yes, of course. Sorry, yes,
because
yes.
for those obviously not quite as famous a name as Gordon Banks, but a guy who was absolutely instrumental in bringing a number of top quality players through at Manchester United.
One of the unsung heroes, really. of recent
Absolutely,
times.
winning the Youth Cup with United in '92 and '95, I think, and of course the class of '92 is the big legacy he left, among other things. But when it was known that he was severely ill, there was talk of people just flocking to his house. I mean, David Beckham drove 400 miles to be with him and took a homemade cake and all this other stuff. And clearly a guy who was very, very important to the careers of a number of top quality players. And their tributes on Twitter today have been testament to that. So rest in peace, Eric, as well.
Very much so.
There's been situations with Spurs under Pochettino in the past where they have been in a decent situation, a decent position, and they've just gone gung ho, gone for it, and perhaps been caught out and showed a bit of immaturity, perhaps. Whereas last night's performance was so mature. I mean, the first half was very competitive, hard to make a breakthrough. They had a lot on their plate, keeping Sancho and Pulisic quiet. Second half, they just came out flying. Early goal, and then just really impressed their advantage on the game. And you were thinking, I was thinking at the time, if they come away with this with a 1-0, it's a solid result, but they'd like 2. I never thought they'd come out of it with 3,
No.
but they kept their foot on the throat and they kept going. And you'd have to fancy them to go through now. I
You
mean, it's
would.
very difficult.
And I think they will go
Dortmund.
through, but I can see Dortmund going 2-0 up. In
Yeah,
the second leg.
I think every
Spurs-
Spurs fan everywhere is probably thinking that.
Yeah, no, but I think Spurs will go through, and I think they will. But I can see it being a bit nervy at some points.
I think this sort of performance will give them so much confidence in terms of whoever they get in the next round, should they go through. I think they're in an unusual situation because they don't fear anyone, and we've seen that in the league. And obviously they've come up short against a few sides like Liverpool, and that's to be expected. But I think there will be a unusual prospect for anybody playing them.
Yes.
Because you sort of know what you're going to get, but they've not been around in the Champions League long enough for teams to have figured them out.
And also,
in a
most of the
sense.
footage they'll have of Spurs will be with Harry Kane up front. Now, he may well be back, presuming Spurs go
Will he
through.
get back in the side?
Well,
Will
that's
Liam and Ali get back
They've won.
in the
I
side?
think they've won 6 of 8 without him, which is
Yeah.
a good record. But I felt like we talked about this on the show before, and I felt like I don't know if you guys agreed. I think you did at the time where we said, it feels like they're going back to the well and they're just pulling these results out and they look
Mhm.
tired and they're dragging themselves through it and they get results, and that's a testament to them.
Yeah.
To me, last night, they didn't look tired at all. They looked really up for it. They
Mm-hmm.
looked really in for the occasion. And Jan Vertonghen was. I don't
Mm.
know if I've ever seen a player be so bad and so good. Like
Sissoko's up there, to be fair.
well, Sissoko was great last
Yeah,
night
he
as
was
well.
great.
But was it in the North London derby where Vertonghen got
Yeah, he had a
sent off?
nightmare,
He was
yeah.
absolutely appalling. I think in a particular fantasy football website I play with my friends, I think he got -8 points that day. and last night he was incredible, being played out of position at 31, in a position I don't know if he's ever played before. A goal and assist, keeping one of the brightest young talents in European football quiet. He was unbelievably good. But the biggest testament to Spurs you can pay, I think, is that they didn't look at all tired last night. They looked really up for it. They were on the front foot. They controlled the game. It was such a mature performance for them.
Did you agree with Arsene Wenger's comments about the
What did he
team?
say?
He basically said he compared Spurs team to the Manchester United team of 1992 and 93, like the class of 92 rather, and sort of said they need to start winning stuff. They're a very positive young team, which I don't think they are that young, but they need to start winning things.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Arsene Wenger because that leads us neatly on to Manchester United, who, of course, didn't have a positive result. They were beaten quite handedly. And Big Veng getting involved after the match saying Man United played at home and had one shot on goal in the Champions League. That tells you the difference between the two teams. Big Veng sticking in the boot.
That's with punditry, though, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
from
He's not
punditry.
shouting it from the stand.
Yeah, but, you know, I mean, it's not.
Listen,
but
I bell.
You very
I
much
love-
presented it like he was.
No,
he's
no,
not
he's
ringing
sticking in
people
the
up.
boot.
He's
He's
not
doing-
ringing people up individually, is he? He's obviously got some sort of platform.
I'm not presenting that at all. I'm saying Big Veng post-retirement is sticking the boot in and he's absolutely loving it.
He's on
because
Periscope.
all that's missing from these, and he started saying about, well, they were dominated in midfield. You can't be dominated in midfield the whole game. All he's missing at the start of these sentences is from personal experience.
yeah, and trust me, I'd know.
It's harrowing.
Yeah,
Oh, it's fun, this.
yeah.
Slagging everybody else off, and it's not you.
Yeah. Who's a voyeur now?
Wasn't Sadio? I mean, Man United fans would probably argue that that it's a sign of a big club, right? Everyone's got an opinion on them.
That's right.
Because Sadio Mane stuck the boot in as well. Didn't
He
he?
did, that
And
was
Mario
great.
Balotelli.
Everyone's at it.
Well, Mane was on Instagram posting a photo of the television with the game on and the scoreline under it with a caption just saying, hum.
I mean, that is a
Confusing.
Yeah.
it's a bold move, isn't it? Because
It's-
it can come back to bite you so easily.
Well, that's why he deleted it.
I mean, it doesn't matter now, does
Yeah,
it?
it doesn't
Screen
matter.
Is he
grabs are out
complaining
there.
about his television speaker system?
If you're a footballer, if you're a football, Paul Television Speaker making a return. If you're a football player and you Instagram or tweet anything,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how quick you delete it.
Yeah, exactly.
There is always going to be a screenshot of
Of course
it.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
He then posted a photo of him and Klopp in training, laughing, which he probably thought, oh, I'll put that one up to throw them off the scent. That makes it worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. It does. Yeah, it does.
He deleted it. Mario Balotelli, though, was less subtle. He just tweeted, Manchester United, ole!
Yeah.
And then tweeted, City fans happy, good night!
He also added something about how Marseille fans shouldn't worry because he hates PSG as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. He deleted both posts later.
But have you guys?
So again, it didn't happen. Don't worry about
Have
it.
you guys been
I've
taken
seen
back?
everything.
I mean, Balotelli deleting. What's the point of that? I mean, it's not as though he's not done it 100 times in the past.
If you're going to do that, you might as well change your identity.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't mind. I think that footballers. Do people
I'm
get.
surprised in 2019 footballers are allowed their own Instagram accounts.
Well, if
Well,
the
it's all
president
about,
of the United States has one.
Think of the shareholders, Pete. It's all
Yeah.
about growing the brand.
but
Good
I-
point. Good
but
point.
it-
Sorry,
what-
sorry,
what's-
shareholders.
Fellow shareholders.
What's wrong though? I can understand from a sort of PR point if a footballer, say like Mane, who's pretty clean cut as far as I'm aware, and it seems like a lovely chap. You don't want him from the club's point of view. You don't want him getting into this unnecessary battle and journalists saying, "Oh, you're snagging him off." And
Yeah.
So I suppose that's the reason, isn't it? Otherwise, I don't see the problem.
No, I think that's right. I mean, they ultimately they do have lives as well, and they've got their own
Thoughts.
responsibilities, and they should know that.
Imagine a 19.
They all get media training these days, of course. They all
Yeah,
get
but
social media education.
Imagine a
and stuff.
1996 sort of Paul Merson vintage 1am.
Oh, yeah.
tweet. What that would look like.
I'd love to see it. If you've got the time machine ready, that's where I'm going.
No, you say you'd love to see it until you actually see it, and then
Yeah,
you go,
you're like, this is
"Oh, I regret
depressing."
that."
Yeah. What did you guys make of the? Because obviously Man United played Chelsea in the big game at the Champions League, the FA Cup this weekend. What did you make of everyone's reaction to Man United being beaten by PSG? Because to me, it feels like it's so typical like coverage of football in this country these days. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is Yeah, give him the job, give him the job, give him the job. He's the best young coach in Europe. Give him the job.
Ooh.
They lose a game and it's like, oh, Pochettino.
Found
we're
out,
gonna
found out.
Yeah. To me, it's just so transparent. Clearly, they don't become a terrible team when he doesn't become a terrible manager. If he indeed we agree he is a good one, he doesn't become a terrible one.
I think
because they got beaten by a European heavyweight in the Champions League.
Sure, but it was a European heavyweight who were missing key players. But I think it was the mid-innings collapse, which
but it can happen though. It's a top level of football, right?
It can happen.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a very, very good team. And you know, Man United
and a team
sort of
who've
struggle
played
to find an
together.
answer to that. Absolutely.
Solskjaer is Schrodinger's manager. Might be good, might be good. You never know.
Might be good, might be bad. Open the box, find out.
Yeah, I think it was
What's
the
the
fact
half-life
that
of the uranium.
I think it was the fact that PSG were missing players. They looked a bit disjointed on paper. Obviously, the way the game played out. I mean, at half time, it was sort of fairly nicely poised, and then Manchester United looked like it could have been 3. Could have been maybe 4. I mean, Mbappe, I think, was annoyed with himself, didn't he, that he never got more than 1. So I think
Pogba, that thing he does where he finally got punished for it, where he tries to put his foot over the ball.
But Reiki.
You're not going to get away with that in Europe. I don't understand why he thinks he can get away with it anyway.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I remember Jamie Redknapp doing that years ago. He liked to kind of do that raking kind of...
Over the top.
Yeah, and he went on someone's knee, and the referee came over and was like, no. And Redknapp mouthed, what, you're going to book me for that? And I remember thinking... You're lucky it's not a straight red.
Yeah. And you've had your own knee problems, so you should know better.
He's getting his own back.
But do you think
run with the family, didn't
His
it?
dad has, yeah.
Do you think Man United will? Do you think Man United will see? Do you think Man United will watch the tape of Chelsea's last performance and say there's something there for us?
I think they will use that as a blueprint. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if we get 3, we'll be happy.
Incredibly, Chelsea are 11-2 second favourites to win the FA Cup with Bet365. So £10 return, £65 including stake. Should they lift the trophy in May? Second favourites.
It's an intriguing tie, this, because I'm really interested in the reaction to Alexis Sanchez's performances of late, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saying that he needs to find himself on the pitch, because we were talking about this recently, weren't we? And I remember you, Marcus, expressing rather surprised that Luke and I both kind of said that I think Sanchez is probably a busted flush now, and his best days are behind him. And I think his performances are showing that, obviously, apart from at the Emirates recently.
Yeah.
But what do you think about that? Do you think it's just a bad fit for him? Because I wonder if actually the Chelsea game, given how sort of unpredictable and potentially ragged they can be, might be a good opportunity for him to get a chance to do something in a big game.
Yeah, but I think to call a footballer like him a busted flush.
When you say that about a man like him.
Exactly, yeah. No, I just he's clearly... I know he's had a few little injuries and whatnot, but it's not like he's returning and you think like someone like Torres... He's just not the player, and the confidence.
But I think that is the case, though.
What, the injuries done that?
Well, I think it might be the injuries and sort of playing so much for Chile as well.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I don't know. I think with Sanchez, it's just not worked out with him at Manchester United. I don't know what the problem is, and Solskjaer's comments are interesting because if it was a case that he needed to get over a bit more injury, all that kind of stuff. They play a system which pretty much suits him. He can still do what he wants, more of a wide position or a forward position or something. It's not that a far
Does
cry.
he need to take a step down a little bit and just kind of...
I don't know. I think Solskjaer's comments are interesting. He needs to find himself, and I think it's a question of confidence, maybe the enjoyment of the game and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he's got a lot of miles on the clock.
He does.
He's of an age for a player who's played that much football. He's also a difficult character, but people lead me to believe. And at the moment, he's probably not in Man United's best team, which is always difficult for a forward player because then you're looking at trying to pick up scraps and play in the occasional game or come off the bench and you've got to make an impact. Having said that, did we not see 2 forward players in the shape of Lingard and Martial go off for United against PSG in midweek? So they might get an opportunity there. But I echo what Marcus says. He needs to reboot himself somehow. But the problem is, it's not a problem for him. If it is, it's a nice problem to have. He's earning so much money.
Well, that's it.
That he's not going to go anywhere else.
No.
So he's going to probably have to stay there and fight for his place. And
China.
Yeah, maybe.
That's the answer, isn't it, for all these guys? Just go to China.
Unless you're Aaron Ramsey. I'll get that kind of money in Italy, thank you very much.
Lovely old job. That is a lovely old job.
But
Free transfer. Well done, Arsenal.
Sanchez might figure a little bit more than we expect in this game against Chelsea. And I'll tell you what, if that performance from Chelsea in terms of the gaps they left against Man City is anything to go by, he might find himself having a bit of joy.
Yes, right, let's go to Wales. Newport County host Manchester City. Can Manchester City do what MK Dons did last Tuesday and go to Rodney Parade and win?
Well, it's a big ask.
It is a huge ask.
Because it's part of the romance of the cup, as we know.
Big ask.
It's always funny, isn't it, when you think, that pitch, and they're not going to fancy it. MK Dons did it just a few days ago.
Well, Michael Flynn said that, this could be the biggest upset in the history of the cup if you look at the money City have and the calibre of the manager, which is a fair
And
point. But
Pep likes cups. He plays his main team pretty much. He plays. If he's sort of losing matches, he tries and play them into form. But I mean, to be fair, they did have a pretty good result in the week. So
the quadruple is on for Manchester City. Not so much chat about the quadruple this season as there was last season, but they do have big games coming up though, Manchester City, because they're off to Schalke next week. Now it's a favourable draw as they go in the knockout stages of the Champions League. Let's not be silly, but still, it's never an easy place. Any away tie in the Champions League is always difficult. And Guardiola, you would imagine with the games coming up and so on, you want to put down a marker and come away with a 2-0 win or something like that would be absolutely fantastic. Then they've got Chelsea next weekend, the weekend after this in the League Cup final. And I thought to myself, oh, could he rest players? And I thought, yeah, it doesn't really matter with that squad, does it?
That was going to be exactly my point.
Yeah.
That you go back and look at the team you played against Burnley.
Their third team.
Yeah, and there's a couple of players in there that wouldn't necessarily play that often. I guess
Zinchenko or somebody.
Or Danilo, I think, played.
He started against Chelsea, I think.
That's the thing. They're all relied upon to play whenever they need to play, and they're all decent. It's like you wouldn't. I don't in my mind think of Gundogan as a first team.
No,
but he's amazing.
I know.
Can you honestly look at that team and know when they're resting players?
That's
you
the
might be
point.
doing it all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. And Gundogan, another one, he scored against Chelsea, of course.
Sometimes they rest themselves during the games and still win.
Let the ball do the work.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely true. You think to yourself, okay, well, he's not playing on, but the problem is that those three guys are playing as well. I mean, the squad is so vast, and yet Phil Foden probably won't start.
No, he won't. Newport are a colossal 28-1 to win this game in 90 minutes with Bet365. It's on Saturday tea time, I think. £10 on that returns £290, including stake. It's a big ask for Newport County, and I know I'm going to get in trouble on our Reddit for saying this every week because they slag me off for repeating myself.
Okay.
But Rodney Parade is becoming a classic FA Cup venue.
It is.
And hopefully, because I'm a neutral and I have no dog in this fight, hopefully we'll see
a Newport win.
A more folklore attitude. I'm going to put it more diplomatically.
How have you got no dog in this? We got the underdog in it, mate. That's
true.
That's
got a
the
chihuahua.
dog.
I want Newport County to win.
Well, of course you do. You don't have a heart if you wanted Manchester City to win, unless you're a Man City fan.
Yeah, or a fan of the fellow rival of Newport County.
Yes.
Remini.
There's your inner dog.